Oke, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay, thank you for joining to this presentation. Let me introduce ourselves. We are from the first group, and my name is Nur Azizah. And my friends are Siti Fatimah, feliana harilda luthfia, rima monika, and eryna rista aulia. In this opportunity, we would like to present about the psycholinguistic, that is the definition, what do we learn and what do we interested. Okay, the first slide is about the definition of psycholinguistic. Psycholinguistic is a study that combines the fields of linguistics and psychology. The focus of psycholinguistics is how humans acquire, use, understand, and produce a language. Psycholinguistics is also various backgrounds such as psychology, linguistics, speech, language, and cognitive. And psycholinguistic relation with mind or brain, namely the right and left hemispheres of the brain, and the left hemispheres is the function as abstract thinking, language, skills, and listening, while the right hemisphere function as creativity, music, and arts. Okay, the second slide is about the psycholinguistic is process of language production and how to brain see the language, and in the below level of processing consists of the first is phonology and phonetics. There is a study how the brain process and understand the sounds. And then the next is morphology. Morphology is about the plural and singular. For example, cat and cats. There is a consists of plural and singular, and there's relation with the grammar. And the fourth is about the syntax. Syntax is learns how words are arranged into meaning in the sentences. Okay, the last is pragmatics or discourse. Is study the context in which the language is used. Okay, the next slides will be explained by Feliana Harilda Luthfia.
Okay, next, psycholinguistics studies four main topics. First, comprehension. Comprehension is the mental process that humans go through to grasp and understand what other people mean. Second, production. Production is the mental process in us that allows us to speak as we say. Third, the biological and neurological basis. It enables humans to speak. And the last is acquisition of language. Acquisition of language concern about how children acquire their language.
Okay, thank you, Feliana. The next slide will be explained by rima monika.
Okay, in the relationship between language and thought, there are several points. Namely, in the first is mental lexicon. Mental lexicon is a dictionary or vocabulary related to how the words are stored and received by the mind. This mental lexicon is also always updated by the mind, and this mental lexicon maturing with age, and the experience for getting the word they remember. And then for the second is memory. Memory has long term and short term, and it can remember words in the brain. And then in the third is competence and performance. Competent is a person's ability to create and understand sentence, including sentence they have never heard before. The ability to recognize ambiguous, and the performance is the actual use of a language by someone. And then in the last is speech error. Speech error has been studied by psycholinguistics to find out how people store a language item in long-term memory and how they select item from memory when speaking.
Okay, next slide. Back to the Feliana. Feliana, can you explain?
Okay, next, the scope of psycholinguistics. Psycholinguistics study how people use language as a system and how people learn a language or how people can acquire a language and use it for communication.
Okay, next slides will be explained by Siti Fatimah. Okay, Siti Fatimah, it's time is yours.
Thank you. Okay, what do we learn in psycholinguistics? First, the step-by-step of learning a language, because the use of language is produced from the mind. The mind determines whether a person can communicate with others or not the mouth or the tongue, because the brain produces and perceives language. And then psycholinguistics is the study of how people use language as a system and learn that language. And then understanding all aspects of the use of human language, including how language is acquired, how language is produced, and how language is comprehended. And then psycholinguistics include the process of producing a sentence that has meaning and is linguistically correct. And the last, psycholinguistics is concerned with the cognitive faculties and processes that are necessary to produce the grammatical construction of language. It is also concerned with the perception of this construction by listeners. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The last slides will be explained by Eryna, Rista, Aulia. This time is yours.
Okay, thank you. Then, in this slide, I would like to tell or inform about what do we interested in what do we interested in psycholinguistics. First, we can find out the relationship between language and thought, especially how words are used, what is the meaning of a word, the difference in how to acquire language for children and adults. Second, psycholinguistics can help the language learning process, knowing the development of language as an evaluation material to be implemented not only in the field of learning, but also in communication in the community. Third, we interested with psycholinguistic course because it discusses about mechanism by which language is processed and represented in the mind and brain. Next, this psycholinguistics course is very interesting because it discusses the origin of a language and discusses the process of the occurrence of a sentence. And the last one, we can know how to solve language problems, explain language psychologically and linguistically, language creates experience, connect language and brain, analyze pronunciation errors, connect language and thought, know brain memory function, knowing the silent period, knowing the process of acquiring the first language, and looking for a theory of a language. Thank you.
Okay, I think that's all from our presentation. Thank you for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.